Iya. Ah, iya, iya, iya. Iya, iya. Iya, iya. Oke. Oke, iya, 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 iya. Nanti tanda tangannya kering atau
Honorable, distinguished keynote speakers, Honorable Board of Faculty of Law, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, Honorable invited guests, and all the participants of Asian-Col 2023. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First and foremost, all praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has been giving us happiness, health, and mercy so we can attend and participate in this event without any obstacle. Also, salawat and salam be upon to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ASEAN Conference on Cooperative Law 2023.
Udah kemana? এইটা ইন্দোনেশিয়ার হচ্ছে ইন্দোনেশিয়ার কনফারেন্স এটা ওহো তো ধরি উঠি আইছো তে কার কোটে বেটা সেইটা সেইটা আজিরো সব টি-শার্ট পিন্ধি এই ভালো টাইম
to the fourth ASEAN Conference on
Comparative Law 2023, held by the Faculty of Law, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, and several cohorts from some countries. Ladies and gentlemen, comparative law study is a method of learning of various legal systems that may enrich perspective of the researcher in relating to the relevant topic. Comparative law study will prevent a deadlock of finding solution for the current legal issues. However, comparative law study needs specialized legal scholars who seriously conduct comparative law research to provide particular legal policies in the relevant countries. And our agenda today, ladies and gentlemen, the fourth ASEAN Conference on Comparative Law is also one of the response of the UNA law to sustainably focus on developing legal knowledge which use comparative law approach. ASEAN Comparative Law Conference is an annual conference organized by the Faculty of Law, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, Indonesia, in collaboration with several partners from national institutions and international level. And the theme of our this year conference is harmonization of law in the disruptive world, prospect and challenge. Here is congratulation to all the presenters and participants, as without your support, this conference would not have proved to be beneficial to this extent. We would like to express our deepest gratitude to the keynote speaker, Professor Najib, and also Professor Murat Jumai from Turkey and from Bones. And last but not least, allow me to thank the director and the vice rector, all the faculty members and the committee of the Asian-Col for their contribution and very hard effort to hold this conference. And allow me to end my welcoming speech to respect the speakers, presenters, and participants that to know the beauty of the legal system, sometimes we need to know the weakness of other legal systems. On the other hand, to know our weakness, we must know other beauty of legal system. This is the philosophy of comparative law, a tool which is essential and important. And for your information, our journal in Faculty of Law, Journal Media Hukum, has just got its status as index corpus journal last month, and hope we can recommend some good article from the conference, from the Asian-Col to the journal. Then we expect that it could be published in our journal. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoy our conference. Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much to everyone. But before that, please stay because the opening of this conference will be led by Pak Iwan and be accompanied by the Board of Faculty and Pak Nadir Shah Hussain. Pak Nadir Shah Hussain and the Board of Faculty, please come forward.
Gentlemen, I officially open our conference by what? No. Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, now let's step forward to the main agenda, namely the keynote speeches that will be led by Muhammad Hajar Albina as the chairman of our plenary session. Muhammad Hajar Albina is one of the alumni of the International Program for Law and Sharia, Faculty of Law, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. He is the awardee of Australia Award Scholarship and has completed master degree in the School of Law at the University of Melbourne. Brother Albina, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Honored and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed panelists, good afternoon, and welcome to the fourth sessions of Conference on Comparative Laws, Asian-Col, entitled Harmonizations of Laws and Disruptive Law, Prospect and Challenge. My name is Muhammad Hajar Albina, and I'll be the chairman of these sessions. But before we proceed, let me brief outline our today's sessions. Each panelist will have approximately around 25 minutes or 30 minutes to present their views on design topics. And I also encourage active participation from our lovely audience. If you have any questions or comments or thoughts, please type them in the Q&A sessions. We value your engagements and look forward to lively and insightful dialogue. Now, I'd like to invite our three speakers. The first speakers will be Bapak Nadim Syamsian, PhD. He's a former associate professor at School of Law at the University of Wollongong. Since July 2015, he has moved to teach at School of Law in Monash University, Melbourne. He is the first and the only Indonesian-born Australian scholars to be appointed as a full-time academic in Australian law school. He completed his first PhD, yes, I said first, at University of Wollongong, and his second PhD in National University of Singapore. He then worked for 2 years as postdoctoral research fellow at ETC, Byrd School of Law, University of Queensland. Nadim Shah Hussain, also a former president of the Indonesian Council from 2010 to 2015. Please, Bapak Nadim. And our second guest speaker is Professor Muratumai. Professor Muratumai is a professor in constitutional law and human rights. He graduated from the Faculty of Law and University. Prior joined the Faculty of Law and South University. He completed his studies in University of Essex and Manchester in England with a PhD degree. He held research fellowship as honorary researcher at the University of Manchester, Durham, and Glasgow from 2007 to 2010. In 2005, he worked as a trainee in the European Court of Human Rights. He also principal founder and head of Center of Human Rights at Southern University. Professor Muratumai will join us via recorded lectures. And last but not least, our final speakers, as a keynote speakers, is Bapak Iwan Satriawan, PhD. Bapak Iwan Satriawan, PhD is our dean at Faculty of Law, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. He obtained his Bachelor of Law at Universitas Muhammadiyah Gajah Mada. He has also held a master degree at International Islamic University Malaysia in 2005, and his doctoral program at International Islamic University Malaysia at 2017. He is also currently a Secretary General of Association of Indonesian Private Law School and a member of Indonesian Association of Comparative Law. And he's also a coordinator of a research cluster on law and technology at the Research and Innovation Center here at Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. And for that, please, Bapak Iwan, join me in the sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will move to our main agenda, which is we'll be listening from the first keynote speakers from Bapak Nabil Shah Hussein. Bapak Nabil Shah Hussein, is yours.
Sudah, Pak. Bisa lihat. Apa, Pak? Hanan. Hanan, Pak. Hanan. Hanan merapat dan Hanan merapat. Hanan. Hanan, tolong dikirim ke WA saya yang file saya. Biar saya bisa lihat. Ditambahnya Pak Iwan dan Sakti. Bisa lihat. Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa bihi nasta'in. Ala umurina wa din. Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi amma ba'd. It's an honor for me to be here. Pak Iwan, I think this is a continuation of a research institute known as Law School and UNY Law School. I think 2 or 3 months ago that we visited us in Monash in Clayton, and in July, Professor John Allen, Associate Dean of Monash Law School, also came here. And now I get a chance to visit your digital campus, and I have with me 2 Monash Law students, Tanya and Tanzil. So today I'm going to talk about pluralism and constitution in Asia, and so who control the
I'm sponsored.
So I have 25 minutes. Now I think it's already 23. So there are 2 main questions that I'm going to discuss. So the first one is, how do constitutions in Asia deal with the issue of pluralism? The reason that I ask this first question is because, you know, in Asia, the governments really try to maintain harmony among society. And then, because in Asia there are many different religious communities, ethnic background, different languages, even in ASEAN, in Association of Southeast Asian Nations, members of ASEAN, we have around 630 million people with more than 1,000 local languages. So how do constitutions in select ASEAN countries deal with the issue of pluralism? So that's the first question. Then the second question,
2398.
we know that the constitution is a form that ASEAN countries inherited from colonialism, from Western. That's why they have Indonesia as constitution, Malaysia, and also others. Before the colonial era, those countries didn't have constitution, written constitution. Once they become modern nation state, independence, then they follow the format of having a constitution. So it is in Western form. But then the question is whether we can make an argument that actually there exists a distinctly Asian form of constitutionalism or of political constitutional practice. So when ASEAN constitutional constitutions dealing with pluralism, actually, they do not follow a Western model anymore. They create their own model. That's what we're going to see. Okay, so the next slide, please. Bill Iwan already explained the benefit of comparative law. Yeah. So I remember when I studied comparative law 25 years ago, my professor said to me, well, Nadine, comparative law is like a cocktail party. Yeah. Then when we go to the cocktail party, there will be 20, 30 people there. It is impossible for you to talk to each person. Then you need to find some kind of similarities, right? So if my students went to the cocktail party and then they see that, you are from one also, then they can make a communication connection. Or they come from the same high school, or they wear the same dress. So you need to find some kind of connections before you go to case studies, before you want to do comparative. Otherwise, it will be too much. Right? So here, I selected for case studies 4 countries: India, Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia, because they have the same issues that they have to deal with pluralism. India, Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. So that's why that's the focus of my presentation. Okay, so next slide. India. So this is only the timeline of the history. India. The main point here is the last 3 points. Post Second World War, India. That's not it. India gained independence. Then in 1949, the constitution adopted. So that's what we want to see. Okay, then the next slide. 1949 constitution. So Indian constitution is considered as the lengthiest constitution in the world. That's because they have 395 articles. Usually, when we talk about constitution, it's only important points that we put in. The detail will be regulated under the acts or the statutes. But here in Indian constitutions, they provided matters of administrative detail in the constitution. That's why there are really long constitutions, nearly 400 articles. Okay, next one. And then in India, because they were colonized by British Empire, so they follow a British style system of parliamentary government. And at the same time, they also have American style judiciary. Okay, next. Now we know that the format is a Western one because they adopted from British parliamentary system. They also follow American system of judiciary. So it is a Western one. But then they need to deal with pluralism. They need to deal with differences amongst Indian society. So they put it what they call it DPs, Directive Principles of State Policy. That's in part 4 of their constitution. And they declare that this part 4 in the constitution is non-justiciable before a court of law. So no one can challenge this. They have to accept this. And these DPs is really significant because they want to maintain harmony among divided society in India and also with the casta, the caste system, and having huge social and economic inequalities. So this is what the DP said in the Constitution of India. The state shall promote with special care the educational and economic interests of the weaker section of the people, and in particular of the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes, and shall protect them from social injustice and all forms of exploitation. So the Constitution said that the government needs to take care of the minority. Right? The government needs to protect them from social injustice and all forms of exploitation. So they put this into the Constitution. And once again, this is non-justiciable. Jadi Bapak Ketua Pengadilan, jadi di India ini tidak bisa digugat poin-poin ini. Jadi kalau kita NKRI harga mati, buat mereka ini di sini harga mati. So then the Indian Constitution was designed not only to establish political structures and declare fundamental rights and freedom, but also to bring about social reform. Okay, next slide. Despite these achievements, that they want to deal with pluralism and put this in the Constitution, and no one can challenge it. There is also a problem about judicial activism in India, where the court will make where the judges will make a decision based on judicial activism. Next. So then we can see here how India in the constitutions try to follow a Western format of constitution, but at the same time, they also realize that they could not maintain harmony unless they put some special provisions, which is absent in the Western model. Okay, next. So based on India experience, it seems that the British government plays significant roles in promoting constitutionalism. The question is, can ASEAN countries produce a homegrown product of constitutionalism without Western government telling them to do so? Next, we look at Indonesia to answer that questions. Unlike constitutions in Iraq and Afghanistan, that American government forced Iraqi and Afghani people to rewrite their constitution. In Indonesia, in 1991 until 22, there was a constitutional reform, as most of you already know. So no one forced Indonesia to reform our constitution. It is through the fast student demonstration that put President Suharto resignation. But the Western government, like the US or even Australia, didn't push Indonesia to do that. So this is like a homegrown product. And there is no influence of colonialism like in India. Okay, next. So I'm going to skip Indonesia. I'm going to skip some of the information because I think most of you already know. And I think Fatnia and Justin will also know that this, right? They will take some courses at UG. Maybe next time at UNB. Okay, next. 1945 Constitution. So, how Indonesian Constitution deal with the issue of pluralism? Back to our question, right? So, in Indonesia, they put this into the preamble of the Constitution. Unlike Indian model, they put it into batang tubuh, into the articles. Here, we put it into a preamble. So, this is what we call it Pancasila, the 5 pillars of Indonesian state ideology. So with this Pancasila, Indonesian government believes that this will maintain harmony among Indonesian society. Then in the constitutional amendment, there were 31 articles that being amended, but no one touched the preamble. So the preamble is still the same. Then this preamble will influence the way that the constitutional code, Mahkamah Konstitusi, interpret the constitutions. That spirit, the Pancasila spirit, will influence the way that Mahkamah Konstitusi or constitutional code make a decision about constitutional case. And then so we have a checks and balances, we have multi-party system, we also have a human rights provisions. So I always say to my students in Australia, because I also teach Australian constitutional law. Australia doesn't have Bill of Rights in our constitution, right? So then I think it's time for Australia to learn from Indonesian constitutions because we have human rights provisions in our constitution. Okay, next. So then now Indonesia is considered as a young liberal constitutional democracy. We try to solve the problem by using a mechanism provided by the constitution. You may recall in 2014, 2019, when there's a dispute of presidential elections, we didn't have civil war, like in Cairo, for example, or in Egypt, or in India, and other places. All the dispute was settled through constitutional court decisions. So people started to realize that any dispute should be brought to the court. So again, that's how Indonesia deal with pluralism by putting Pancasila, the state ideology, in the preamble. Okay, next. Now we are going to look at Singapore and Malaysia. This is what Professor Teo Dian from National University of Singapore Law School said: soft constitutionalism. Singapore and Malaysia is a non-liberal Asian constitutional democracy, but in order to maintain harmony among Singapore and Malaysia, they introduced what they call soft constitutionalism. Okay, next. So what is soft constitutional law? There's a non-binding document which exerts legal influence within the realm of constitutional law. So it is outside the Constitution. So remember, in their model, they put it into the articles of the Constitution. In Indonesian model, they put it into the preamble of the Constitution. Singapore and Malaysia model, in order to deal with the harmony, they create new documents outside the Constitution. But these documents are very important that could influence the way that the judges interpret the Constitution, also influence the way that the government maintains their political system, political decisions, in order to support the harmony among society. Okay, next. Okay, beritahu di mana sama juga. Okay, next. Okay, so there are two soft constitutional law instruments. Yes. 1971, Malaysia issued what they call it the Malaysian Rukun Negara Declaration. And then in 1991, Singaporean government produced what they call it the Singaporean Shared Values White Paper. Once again, this is outside the Constitution. This is a political document issued by the government. But then people realize how important this is because of next slide. In the context of my wife keep calling me, so I have to tell her. Oh iya, dari mana harus lupa? Saya lihat WA terus. Jadi istri saya lihat WA saya online kan. Dia call. Padahal saya lagi sibuk ngeliat file saya. Oke, jadi oke saya tadi. Oke, aman. Jadi sudah jawab ya, oke. Kalau nanti dia marah, kondisinya gitu ya. Itu juga karena peranan istri itu juga soft power ya, di luar teks konstitusi. Okay, jadi ada so there are two different kind of soft constitutional law. Yes, Malaysia rukun negara, and Singapore yang separate. Oke, ya. Oke, next ini kita lihat bahwa so there was a riot, ya, ada kerusuhan sosial. There was a riot in Malaysia, 13 May of 1969. You may recall that we also have a similar riots in May 1998, yeah, with the ethnic situations, ethnic conflict. But here in Malaysia in 1961, there was really a riot. Then because of that, Malaysian government started to think, well, we need to have something that we could share together as a society to maintain pluralism. Then they issued this rukun negara. Ini komputernya terlalu bagus. Okay, next slide. So this is rukun negara in Malaysia. They have 5 guiding principles from constitutions. I don't know why 5. Maybe they want to follow Pancasila. Because you know that Malaysia sometimes they like to follow us. Don't quote me. So they have this 5 guiding principles: believe in God, loyalty to king and country. This is the one that we don't have. Right? Upholding the constitution, rule of law, and good behavior and morality. Then they also have the objectives. Okay. So that's Malaysia, and then next one is Singapore. Adopted in 1991 as a national ideology. So again, they have 5 points here. Maybe they also want to follow Indonesia. I don't know. But once again, don't quote me. So they have 5 shared values here: a nation before community and society above self. Family as the basic unit of society. Regard and commonly support for the individual. Consensus instead of contention, and racial and religious harmony. So my students will recall the debate in Australia about Australian values. I remember that there is an Australian values, but then the debate on civil it's never become a powerful document like in Singapore and Malaysia. Then any interpretation of the constitution in Singapore and Malaysia, any government policy should not contradict this soft document. That's what we call soft constitutional power. Despite the fact that they are not in the constitution, but these 2 documents are really powerful in those respective countries. So this is the model of what Chief Justice Young declared. That in Singapore, the sovereignty, integrity, and unity of Singapore are the paramount mandate of the Constitution, and that anything that runs counter to these objectives must be restrained. This includes the religious freedom. Okay, so how they use next slide uses of soft constitutional law. So they can make regulations using this document. Then they can also make a behavior standard, a moral standard based on community expectations. Right? So Singapore and Malaysian government can do whatever they want in order to maintain harmony among society, not using constitution but using this document. And you know that this is also non-justifiable. You could not challenge this, right? Okay, so then kita skip aja Pak, slide-nya sampai ke terakhir karena waktu sudah selesai sampai terakhir. Conclusion, yeah. So as conclusion, we have 4 different models of how Asian constitutions deal with uh, pluralism, how to maintain harmony among society. They have their own model. So with India, this is what they have: directive principles of state policy in the constitution. In Indonesia, we have Pancasila, and we put it as the preamble of the constitution. Then in Malaysia, they have Rukun Negara. In Singapore, they have Share Pay Swap Pay. So I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you for your MacBook Air contribution to the advance. Thank
you, Nadir Hussein, for insightful and very interesting about the pluralism and institutions in Asia. And now we move to our the second keynote speakers, which is Professor Murad Kumai. I believe Professor Murad Kumai will also join us via online. So the operator, could you please start the video presentation by Professor Murad Kumai? Thank you.
Thank you for the Asian Conference on Comparative Laws. First of all, I'm very honored to be invited as speaker to this very important and timely conference. On the other hand, of course, I have very sad that I'm able to participate physically and physically because of the huge distance between us. And before starting my speech, I also would like to thank all the organizers of this important conference and on behalf of the faculty of University of Muhammad I would like to thank my dear friends and from the conference. So this is all, I would say, powers instead of studying individuals, who can grasp the individuals and the image of individuals, security of individuals. So we need to have both, first of all, and different powers with their different, let's say, agencies of the ground or powers of the ground, or with the power of checking each other, one another, and putting a brave and necessary power of other, let's say, branch of the government, and to establish balance of the power in themselves. Now, I would like to share my feelings with you and for me to PPT put you on my speech. So, there's one foundation in my publication and how the great and this as I said, the message constitution is very concise constitution, the British and written constitution in the world. This written constitution deliberately to make the system different from the previous system, especially as they have been independent from the England, so they want to create a new system which is different from the system of the England. So they have established
Dari situ juga.
branch of the government to different branches, and as we talked about it, with the powers of checking and balancing in the really separate branches. So Article 1 of the Constitution regulates the legislative branch, I mean Congress, and this branch has the power to make the law, and Article 2 of the Constitution regulates the executive branch in the United States, and this is we will talk about this different system, the different executive system in the single executive system, and the executive branch in the United States, which is regulated by Article 2, is led by the president, and this executive branch enters the law. And the third branch is regulated by Article 3 of the Constitution, and this is the judicial branch, headed by the Supreme Court, and the judicial branch interprets the law made by Congress, and which are enforced by the president, by the executive branch. So I'm going to do very basically, I'm not saying Constitution is a very concise Constitution, but frame Constitution, a very, let's say, brief Constitution, comparing the other constitutions in the world. And it says, it says that to rest the executive power of the United States in a single a single person. That is elected by the people, but this person is along, let's say, executive power. And also this article sets out the details of how the people of the United States will elect a president, and this is also through the electoral college, and also says how the people might remove president from the office, and this is mainly also through the impeachment process, as we call it, and also this some of the president's core powers and responsibilities. We know that in the constitutional phase, no person or no branch or no institution cannot use, let's say, any power without based on the law, based on the Constitution. In Article 1, also the Constitution gives the president the power to veto legislation as president. So here, giving this power to the president is giving a power to president or to president to make a check and balance over the legislation. But on the other hand, I would say it gives another power to the executive, to the Congress, to make a balance or check the power. As I said, the president has a power to veto the legislation passed by the Congress, but the Congress can override this veto. The president is to buy a two-thirds of the votes in the both houses of Senate and the House of Representatives. But at the same time, the constitutional system of the checks and balances on the other hand, ensures that the other two branches, Congress and the Supreme Court, can check the president exam. So, very basic and very important and very brief. The Constitution is aimed to give power to each branch of the government, but on the other hand, the power to check one hand. So the president may be able to veto a law passed by the Congress, but as we said, the Congress has the power to override the president's veto, to cancel it with a two-thirds of the voting vote out of the Congress. The Constitution also gives the president the power to appoint Supreme Court justice. That's very important, let's say, power. But those appointments must also be approved by the Senate, by the Congress, by the legislature, the Congress of Congress. And also this same goes for me with other countries. But yeah, the president always is the secretary of the state for foreign affairs or any other our Secretary of State can make the various international agreements of the countries, but this will be subject to the approval of the Senate and the legislative order. Finally, Article 3 of the Constitution regulates that the Supreme Court has the power to review the president. For instance, the new executive issued by the president and decide whether those actions were constitutional or unconstitutional. So the Supreme Court, if decide the executive order as unconstitutional, so it will anyway. And so this is also very big power in democratic state, given the Supreme Court to be a check and balance power over the executive or over the president in the states. Okay, another regulation put a balance over communication and concentration of power in one person. We have 22nd Amendment of the United Constitution, and according to this amendment, no person shall be elected to office president more than twice, and no person who has acted for more than 3 years of term to which some other person is elected, president shall be elected to office of president more than once. So this regulation very basically aims to prevent personification of defining the power in one. And then because will be a result in huge problems in terms of protection the life of individuals. Okay, so when the founding fathers discussing about making a new constitution and establishing a new government, a new actually a state system, they were thinking of how do we structure it? How shall we structure the executive, the president, presidency of the executive, or the
Sekarang 13 Pak.
the dreams of Europe was too powerful, but the state governments could be governed actively. And we look at the article of consideration, the so taking into account these realities, they wanted to create an executive order which will be effective on one hand, but also to be limited and check and balance, or a check and balance power that will not be applied to the rights and freedoms of the individuals. So that was the main idea that is ignited in designing designing the presidential system or the executive order. Okay, as I said, there were other discussions. There were different opinions, different views about how to structure presidency. Among them, for example, the founding father Alexander Hamilton and John Dickinson. They were valuing a single and strong nation executive. Another has been government, people that the executive should be a maximum institution for carrying the will of the legislature into effect. So basically, as we know, democracy are based on the will of the people. So what Roger Sherman was saying, the executive order should be a medium between the legislature as a representative organ of. So who carries the demands or let's say the collective demand, the people through the legislative organ to the practice by the executive, let's say, actions. So this is, I think, an important idea and important view about how shall we design or how shall we design the executive or presidency order. Also, at the time of, let's say, this discussion, there was division over the executive branch. According to this idea, there should be an executive chosen by Congress, not elected by people, to serve as individual. And the executive should have a joint legal power, which is oversight of national legislation, subject to the majority legislative power. On the other hand, the European plan did not specify the length of it was stated in the communities or in 5 years, it wasn't signed it. They whether the president would play any role in that war and both people not thinking about the president and powerful and point to the basically was one of the other, let's say, founding fathers of years, James Gilson, he was teaching the and was arguing vigorously executive should be competent of a single person. So he compared with James Wilson. The comment, because let's say in the time Robert Sherman suggested leaving the entire subject executive and the structure of the president itself to was not the business of let's say on why institution established and then the Congress will decide about the structure of the executive, and that was the review. Again, this was a big discussion whether there should be a single executive or a corporate executive, a different manner. Another thing for the time has been granted for the Vietnam for describe the belief in the victim. So here are the believers that no presence, and this legal better of course is the of honor. So in short, he criticized the reason for taking the British Constitution and its king as our president. So you have that again the having in the president which we were saying that is the leader of the monarchy. And he was group that they should create a different system. Okay, so during the discussions, this encounter that is still president is the subject of without the advance of powerful things, namely anarchy and dispatch, with responsibility, so in other words, checks by the Congress and the American division of church. So, what was the result? The result Wilson eventually studied, including Madison, was another, let's say, common brothers, of the viability of energy single trade. He argued that the more the was responsible there was more power to stay with the so here the key issue is that the president should be coupled to the regime. Now, should be responsible on equity, should be subject to control and check and balance of the American. So if so, then there is a back to trading of the and if there is effective the idea of it with the different, let's say, institutions to be president, that the president could be given more power. James Madison, let's say, founding father or founding father, put council divisions with the presidency in the federal ministry to review laws passed by Congress and veto any bad one. So that is key, to be able to actually to compare the task. But there is different and with the freedom idea of let's say difference between the people and the youth, and they benefit from all different let's say idea view they try to establish and design the best or that is not better. But in any way, a very important way to help freedom of expression, to freely distinguish different logic. But it's very important that damage from different minds to be able to actually also let's say break up. So what the founding fathers have done during the designation of the Constitution, writing of the Constitution, so they really I think it's very important.
Thank you, Professor.
How did
Very time's up. I'm sorry, Professor, but we will continue our discussions. It's very interesting about the check and balances, how the Congress checks the president in the USA. And now we finally come, the last but not least again, our key speakers, Bapak Iwan Satriawan. Bapak Iwan Satriawan, time is yours.
Yang itu Pak. Nyalain dulu.
Biar tidak mengantuk. Begini saja. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Brother Dina. Ladies and gentlemen, I try to briefly explain my paper on some reflection on digital appointment in some countries. Basically, this is my result of research in the last 5 years. I'm doing research on how is the mechanism of judicial appointment in Indonesia, because based on some data, we found that we still have problem in our quality of the Supreme Court justice and also Constitutional Court justice. Two of the justice in the Constitutional Court arrested by Corruption Eradication Commission, right? And then another justice also involved in some violation of code of ethics. And we could also find some data that some Supreme Court justices also have problem with the violation of code of ethics. And even we have tried to reform our judicial recruitment well after the political reform, but the problem is still there. So I tried to do comparative research by comparing this issue in terms of Supreme Court justice. We tried to look at the model in India and also in Malaysia. And regarding the Constitutional Court justice, we look at two countries. The first one is Germany and also South Korea. So we look at this experience of the country, how they select the justice, okay? How they guarantee the quality, the integrity, and capacity of the justice to run what we call is judicial independence. Okay, next. If you look at to the issue of how can the judges become independent? Okay. The first one is we talk about capacity, right? They cannot be independent if they don't have high qualification of in terms of capacity. And the second one is, even though they have capacity, but sometimes they have problem with the integrity. So this is the basic. If we look at some principle of independent judiciary, such as Bangalore principle, for instance, this is two issues that the countries must guarantee on independence of judiciary. Next. Now we start from the Supreme Court justice in Indonesia first. So after the political reform in 1998, basically Indonesia has reformed the model of selection mechanism of the Supreme Court justice. If we look at to the before the in the Soeharto era, you know, in terms of judicial appointment, there was a mass involvement of the executive in selecting the justice, because the justice proposed by the Minister of Justice, and you know, Minister of Justice part of the executive body, and then proposed to DPR. And you know, in the era of Soeharto, there is no check and balances mechanism function in the Soeharto era, because mostly the member of parliament, member of DPR dominated by one party, right? Until 70 or maybe 80% of the member of parliament. So therefore, the domination of the executive body from the beginning of the proposal of the candidate by the executive body. So therefore, after the political reform, we changed it by establishing the new body, what we call as Judicial Commission. Okay. So this is how Indonesia tried to reform the model of selection mechanism by cutting, right? By cutting the involvement of the executive in the process of judicial appointment of the Supreme Court justice. However, even we have reformed this model to create an independent body that we call Judicial Commission. The problem is still there. I did research in Judicial Commission, and also I went to the Member of Parliament. So what was wrong with this judicial appointment? Why we still have problem with our justice in the Supreme Court? So based on our finding, we found that the current model of selection in Judicial Commission it still needs reform on the issue of how to detect, right? How to make sure this candidate is the candidate that has integrity. Maybe in terms of capacity is easier, but it is rather difficult to make such mechanism. How to detect that this candidate is a person in terms of what? Integrity is a good person. So Judicial Commission basically also now running for this research, how to find such more detailed mechanism to detect the potential or candidate that have good integrity. And when you look at Malaysia, maybe here some Malaysian participants. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I did also research with the Malaysian scholar, Professor Farid Sofian, that in Malaysia, even Malaysia is parliamentary system. But Malaysia involving the executive. So it's like Indonesia in the Suharto era, involving the executive, because the initial to propose the candidate come from the Prime Minister. It's like in our Suharto era before the political reform. And then send the name to the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Okay. So the appointing bodies is Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Maybe because Malaysia, even they are parliamentary system, but they are constitutional monarchy, right? So the Yang di-Pertuan Agong is the highest symbol of the state, has particular authority to decide to accept or to approve the candidate, right? But if you look at India, they have different model. Ladies and gentlemen, India have a uniqueness model to preserve the independence of judiciary by making particular model that the candidate of the Supreme Court justice selected by the current judges. I'm also surprised when discussed with the friend from India, Professor Gautam and also Professor David Pranda. So they call it the collegium. The collegium consisting of the two senior most judges. So without involving the parliament. So basically the parliament also tried to intervene. They have tried to create a judicial commission as Indonesian did. But then the Supreme Court nullified the decision of the establishment of the judicial commission in India. So the Supreme Court of India tried to preserve their independence by making such mechanism that the Supreme Court justice only select by themselves, without interfering of the parliament. In fact, India is parliamentary system. So if we study constitutional law, it is rather strange that usually in European countries, if they focus on parliamentary system, they will give more authority to the parliament to select the justice. If you look at the European countries like Germany, for instance, the judges select by the Bundestag and Bundesrat, federal parliament and the state parliament. So these both parliaments have authority to select the justice. But if you look at India and also Malaysia, even they are parliamentary system, but they use different system. Right. Next, we move to the issue of constitutional court. If you look at the model of the recruitment or selection of constitutional court justice in Indonesia, basically we refer to South Korea. Because we have the same 9 judges, right? In South Korea also 9 justices, 3 judges proposed by the president, 3 judges by the parliament, DPR in our country, but in South Korea National Assembly of South Korea, and the 3 more from the Supreme Court. Because we Indonesian scholars study went to South Korea to see the model of South Korea. But the problem, ladies and gentlemen, we adopt the model from South Korea, but we didn't adopt the comprehensive model of South Korea. What is that? To preserve the independence and the quality of the candidate in in South Korea, they have what we call is confirmation hearing. And moreover, South Korea, they have the Confirmation Hearing Act. Indonesia, we don't have some kind of Confirmation Hearing Act. Basically, this model comes from United States of America. What is the Confirmation Hearing Act? So even the candidate of the Constitutional Court Justice come from 3 branches: executive, legislative, and the judiciary. All candidates must have confirmation hearing in Parliament, right? But I think for the Indonesian, in our country, okay, the president have their own mechanism, right? The DPR, they have their own mechanism, and Supreme Court, they have their own mechanism, which is more close, right? When sometimes, some justice just directly appointed by the president. You still remember that one justice that arrested by KPK is the justice without having fit and proper test, right? Because it is like political conversation, and the president directly appointed the justice, and a few years after that, the justice arrested by KPK. So, and the second one, also there is a justice of the Constitutional Court run for the second period, right? And then for the second period, there is no fit and proper test, even though from DPR. So, and then after that, this justice also arrested by KPK, by our Education Corruption Commission. So this the mechanism, we don't have such standardized of selection mechanism, and therefore we cannot also guarantee the quality of the justice. If we compare to South Korea, they ensure the quality of the justice by having what we call is confirmation hearing. Why the confirmation hearing is important? That's the way of the public understand and knows more about the candidate. So I give you one example in South Korea. There is a justice of the South Korea run for the second period for the Constitutional Court of Korea. But when he had the confirmation hearing in Parliament, the public sent a petition that this candidate has scandal. Okay? And then exposed by the media, and the media is like also in Indonesia, very sarcastic to attack the candidate. So in Korea, if the candidate published by the media, the candidate will resign from the candidacy. They do not want to face the bullying in media because it is very embarrassing for them and family. And you know, in South Korea, they have tradition. If they feel embarrassed, they can commit suicide. But in Indonesia, we don't have that kind of tradition. We don't commit suicide, right? We kill others, right? So therefore, my reflection, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the problem not only on the credit, but also on the legal culture. Okay, this is a very important point that I have to emphasize to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, that we Indonesia adopted the model that referred to the South Korea, but we forgot one important step, that in South Korea they have what we call as confirmation hearing. So to make the judicial appointment in Indonesia more standardized, my research also trying to recommend that Indonesia needs to have such kind of confirmation hearing act, because by having this confirmation hearing act, so it is okay if the president has right to promote or propose 3 candidates. GPR also promote 3 candidates, and the Supreme Court also promote 3 candidates. But all candidates must go to Parliament for confirmation hearing, where number 1, the candidate will show their capacity. The member of Parliament, maybe the expert can ask questions to the candidate to examine whether the candidate has very high qualification in terms of understanding Constitution. So I think by having this kind of mechanism, I think the candidate will be strong candidate in terms of capacity. All right. The problem of the closed mechanism in Supreme Court, we don't know whether the candidate from the Supreme Court, they are the candidate that understand the Constitution well. My research in the Supreme Court, so I interviewed the justice in Supreme Court. This Supreme Court sometimes they do not aware that they must propose the candidate with the high qualification in understanding Constitution, because the mechanism is closed, and the public cannot also involve, right? So having open confirmation hearing is a step or mechanism to guarantee that the candidate is a candidate with very high qualification in understanding the Constitution. If they don't have such kind of qualification, how can they settle the issue or the constitutional issue? Right? I think that's what happened today. If we look at some decision of the Constitutional Court, okay, I think as a lecturer of the Constitutional Court, I sometimes feel ashamed with my student. I teach different, but what the judge is doing different, right? But there is inconsistency of the raison d'être, not raison d'être, ratio decidendi of the court decision from one case to another case, right? So we cannot get the very very strong argument of the justice looking at the consideration of the court decision. So my reflection on the issue of the judicial appointment regarding the Constitutional Court justice is we need to have a standardized selection mechanism that put confirmation hearing as one of the process to guarantee that the candidate that this must fulfill the first, they have capacity, right? They have to attend debate in parliament, right? To see how they understand constitution. And the second is the public also has opportunity to send petition. Okay, whether the candidate are good person, all right, or they have a scandal. Okay, so by having this mechanism, we expect that Indonesian selection mechanism of the Supreme Court justice and also the Constitutional Court justice would be better in the future. To end my presentation, ladies and gentlemen, of course, I'm not saying this, my research is perfect because we still look at some other countries to make sure this, that our recommendation is high level, quality of the model that we can propose to audience. Because when we met one of the justice, one of the scholar in Germany, she suggested me to go to Spain and Italy to see the model of the judicial appointment in Spain and Italy. So I plan to go there, but I need to look for the research grant to go to Spain. Maybe one of you wants to join to the research cooperation with me. Okay, Professor Nadir, maybe from ONES for the floor. I think this forum would be also one of opportunity for us to have future agenda in terms of research cooperation and also joint publication. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Bapak Iwan Setiawan, for your stage. And on the judicial appointment, comparative reflections in some countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to open the first questions and reflections. So, if you have any questions, please raise your hand, state your name, and also please mention to who speaker that you address your question. Thank you. Okay, so the first one, yep. And then, so the first session will be three person asking the questions, and after hearing those three questions, I'll let our distinguished so three people will ask you questions, and then I'll let our distinguished speakers to answer your respective questions. Thank you. So yes.
Thank you for the moderator. Welcome, Prof. Nadir, in one of the most best University of Muhammadiyah in Indonesia, and also one of the progressive faculty of law, which led by Prof. Iwan Satriawan. My name is Fawaz Muhammad Ihsan, and I'm the third year law student in IPOL's International Program for Law and Syariah, which is led by Plenary in front of me. And Prof. Nadir, I see that you mentioned before that the issue of pluralism and also as a threat and challenge to the Constitution. So I remember when 1 year ago I just write about the article pluralism as a threat and challenge in Asian Convention on Counterterrorism, which found that in our society, especially in Asia, we can see that the religion just recognized as religion generally. So we can see that there is no specific legal document that mention Islam or Christianity and other religion, but they just mention religion itself. So my question is, the first one, how you define pluralism, and if you know that the discussion about talking the changes in constitution is quite tough for our society, when you mentioned about MKRI Hagamati is the sentence that we cannot change, and there is no possibility for us to talk about the changes of constitution. But for law student and also for legal scholar, it is one of the responsibility for us to be inclusive to talk about such issue. So what is the best way for us, for legal scholar and also law student, to make discussion about changes or possibility for change for the issue of constitution? So to maintain peace, is it a good way for us to mention all of the kind of religion and in some constitution, or we just no recognizing at all, or just mentioning that religion is kind of cultural things and we are recognizing them, or yeah, or we are not recognizing all of them. So yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. For the second questions. Yeah. Please stand up. Can we stand up and say your name and the speaker will address in emergency. And please be brief. Thank you for Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for your opportunity, sir. And my name is Ian Ademangistu. I'm from IPOS. And I'm very grateful for joining this. And I would like to ask a question to Prof. Nadir about the dualism and constitution in Asia. Recently, I read the news about the killing, rapes, and the prostitution of the Muslim and other religion in India. And if we look back to the history, in India, religious conflict were so bad that even such conflict caused the regains of several countries in subcontinent. For other example, Myanmar has the Rohingya conflict, and the one China is Uyghurs. And I believe we all know that the constitution is the highest law in the country, and the state is obliged to protect the rights of its citizens. And the situation in India, Myanmar, and China, it seems like the constitution are well to protect some citizens in them. And so I would like to know your view. This issue, if we relate into pluralism and constitution in Asian countries. Thank you. Thank you. And the third questions. Yep. Please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hadi and from the program Law and Sharia, Universitas Muhammadiyah Jakarta. So I'm very happy to join this amazing discussion. I would like to give my some comment and question for from Iwan Setiawan. I think this also our reflection for the appointment of judges in Indonesia. So when discussing the appointment of judges, one of the highly debated subject centers on attaining gender equality. The involvement of women in the Indonesian legal system is notably insufficient, as evidenced by the scarcity of female judges. For instance, in Indonesia currently has only one female constitutional judge, namely Professor Eni Nurbaningsi. So, from my perspective, enhancing the representation of women judges within the judiciary holds significant importance in terms of establishing equitable prospects, fostering inclusivity, and ensuring a fair representation. So, I'm interested in understanding how different countries approach the topic of gender equality in judge appointments, and what factor contribute to the shaping of this matter. Is there any political factor that related for discussed or not? Thank you.
Thank you. So that's the end of our first Q&A session. So I will let for Bapak Iwan Setiawan for answering the third question first.
Okay, thank you very much for a very good question from students. I think only one question that directly addressed to me, right, from Fatih regarding to the gender issue in this your appointment, because Fatih look at the fact that in our constitutional court, only one justice that is woman, right? My guru, my professor, Professor Eni Urbanisi. Well, I think discussing this issue, if I look at to the debate on the candidacy of the Supreme Court, that's right, Constitutional Court Justice in Indonesia, the debate do not involve too much on the issue of gender, right? They focus more on the issue of the capacity and integrity of the judge. So basically, the people, the president, the member of parliament, and the Supreme Court do not care too much on the issue of the gender issue of gender, because what they focus is how to find out a good candidate in terms of capacity and integrity. In fact, the result of this process only produce some justice, which is who are women. I don't conduct particular research. Why in particular period? I think the first period of the Constitutional Court Justice, there is no woman, all men. Like in the era of Professor Dili Asidiki, second. And then after that, we have also Professor Maria Indrati, right? And then the last one is Professor N. So after the few periods, only we have 2 women. Why? Yes, this because of number of candidates, limited number of candidates from women. Maybe if Prof. Ari wants to join the selection. Okay. I know some of my friends, professor from UAE, Professor Nikmatul Huda, Professor Susi Haryanti from Pajajaran, and some other candidates also joined the candidacy selection, but they failed in the process of candidacy. So whether the committee, the member of parliament, the president look at to this consideration, I don't think so. Because it is not easy to find also women who are ready to face this kind of very tough duty in constitutional court. You can see from the candidate that joined the process. So, what is the recommendation? Yes, we need to encourage more women to apply for candidacy, right? More women to apply, more opportunity for women to be appointed. So that's my recommendation, right? That's my answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pertanyaan bagus semua ya. Mas Darren, salah ya. Thank you. It is not possible for Indonesian Constitution to ignore religion. So, because our first sila under Pancasila talk about religion. So then if you want to change or to remove religious provisions, it's not possible. Right? Then it means that we need to change our first sila, Pancasila. But then the question is whether we should define what religion means, and whether we should also consider to mention which religion that been protected under Article 29 of Indian Constitution or not. If that's your question, then I think it's better that the Constitution use the word religion in a widest literal sense. We know that in our Constitution, we don't have a state religion. At the same time, we are not a secular country. Through the legislation under blasphemy law, then the government and the parliament interpreted that religion means here 7. In the past, it's 6, now become 7, 6, and now become 7. Okay, which means the government tried to interpret the section and then said, okay, religions is under 6. I met with so in Jakarta 2 days ago there was a conference or ASEAN conference on intercultural and interdialogue. The topic is about religion. Right. So then I met a lady from Sunda. Yes, that's a local religion in West Java. They're not part of the 7 religion that facilitated by Indonesian government. They put under a Ministry of Education under the Director General of Culture. And then even the government asked them to register as a mass organization.
What's up,
Not as a religion. And I asked her, so in your national ID category, what is it? And she just said black, strict. Because now there are 3 options for them. For those aliran kepercayaan, whether the government will force them to choose one among 7 religions, or they just want to make it black. Right. So this is the issue. And then there's a problem about how to get a birth certificate when they have children, because they don't have marriage certificate, right? But they're part of Indonesian citizen. And then under Article 29 2, then the government needs to protect it, right? And the word religion and faith, agama dan kepercayaan, that's in one line. So of course that during the constitutional debates, then the founding fathers decided to put this agama dan kepercayaan in the same line. But then we only talk about religion, right? Not kepercayaan. In Australia, there's a case about definition of religion, and then Australian High Court interpreted that religion has 2 elements, 2 important elements. Number 1 is there is something that beyond us, whether you call it God, spirit, energy, whatever you call it, there is something beyond us. The second thing is there is some kind of regulations to maintain about our relationship with the supreme being, whatever you call it. Right? And then these are regulations, whether you call it Sharia, whether you call it canon law, whatever you call it, or whether it's on the ethical guidelines. So as long as you have 2 things, then you can claim that you are part of religion, whatever you call religion. So Australian judges doesn't really care about whether it is a Muslim, Christian, Hindu. But once you declare that you believe on these 2 things, you're part of religion, then government must protect your rights and freedom under section 116 of the Constitution in Australia. So then I think, and then if you look at section 116 of the Constitution, there are 4 things that the government cannot do when dealing with religion. So for instance, they could not declare any particular religion as a state religion. They could not use religion as a text to become a pegawai negeri, to become the state officer. Jadi tidak ada itu syarat harus membaca Al-Quran, mau jadi bupati, itu nggak ada. Atau membaca Bible, apa. Dan tidak ada itu. So my point is that the Constitutional Court, I think, needs to make an effort to define what religion means. The danger is because we want to facilitate the seven religion. If we have a loose definition of religion like what Australia did, that means that there will be hundreds of thousands religion and new religion now, and government needs to facilitate that. Right. So I asked the lady from Sunda, I said, what do you really want from the government? First, recognize us as a religion, as part of religion and agama kepercayaan. Second, give us the same facilities, the same fund, because every religion under the Ministry of Religious Affairs here has a Directorate General. Right. Then the government will make regulations about that, and the government will give some funds. Right. So you will make it. Our country will go bankrupt because of we need to facilitate thousands of religions. Right. People will get it. So then, I don't know what the solution is because I'm not a Minister of Religious Affairs. So let's find my friend who's going to deal with that. Okay. I want to make it a bit. But I think we can clearly about this. Okay, that's all your question. And the second one, Ria. Yeah. Conflict in the name of religion. We saw it in India. We saw it in Myanmar. We saw it in Moro, Philippines. We saw it in Patan, Thailand. But don't forget, we saw it here too. Shia people in Sampang, Madura, were kicked out several years ago from the village. In Australia, some Muslim groups have found difficulties to establish mosques. Here in Indonesia, Christian groups have difficulties to get permissions. So in everywhere, that's an issue. So that's why 2 days ago when I attended the conference in Jakarta, we talked about whether we should see religion as part of problem or as part of solution. If we believe that religion is part of problem, then we can also find the solution from religion itself. At the highest level, all those religious leaders who came to Jakarta from different religions and also from different countries, we meet each other, we greet each other, we hug each other, no problem. The problem is when we go back to our own country, right? And then the followers, then they will claim they're the one who will have the contact, right? So that's the means. So what's the solution for the constitution from the constitution perspective? Constitutional perspective, what should we do? So I think part of my answers already given when I answer powers, but I can add another one in order to answer your questions. The Constitutional Court judges, it doesn't matter whether they are female or male, or they're from Muslim or from Hindu or Christian. The question is, when they deal with provision of religion, which interpretation that within the religion itself that they should subscribe to. So take examples about blasphemy laws, right? Under one interpretation, what former governor Jakarta Ahok did was wrong. So that's why they said that this is part of blasphemy, this is penistaan agama, right? But another interpretation said that no, this is not about Quranic interpretations of Al-Ma'idah verse 51. This is about politics. Right? There's nothing wrong with it. The question is, which interpretation that the court whether it is a state court or it's personal court, that will follow. Because the judges, this is not judges from religious court. Right? They know nothing about tafsir, about fiqh, about hadis hadis. They learn because they're not from Tas Muhammad Jakarta Faculty of Law, right? Right. They're from other law faculties. Then the tendency is to follow the mainstream interpretation. Under Islam means MUI, Islam Indonesia. Maybe Christians, there's also, or Hindus, Buddhas, there's also their own organization. Their interpretations will be adopted by the court, right? But exactly that's the problem, right? Because what we need is to have a plurality within pluralism. We need to have a plurality of interpretation about religion. Then the court should recognize. Otherwise, it will be dangerous. If anything can be declared as a blasphemy, you eat a pork crackers, right, with a bakso in a Bali airport, then people said that this is blasphemy. You complain about azan here. Kalau azan is too loud, then they call it a blasphemy. So dikit-dikit penistaan agama. Then that's the end of my answer before people use me as
Thank you. I'm afraid that's the end of our question and answer sessions because we're running late. So should we have any questions, please hold your comments or questions because we still have another day for this conference, which is also will be held this building, but do it tomorrow. So please join me to say thank you very much. Thank you very much for our panelist guest speaker. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reverina, and also thank you to all the speakers for setting such a valuable insight. We are very honored to have them with us today. Now, before we close our event, we would like to invite Bapak Muhammad Endrio Susilo as the chairman of the steering committee to come forward and hand over the token of appreciation to our keynote speaker. Bapak Iwan Satriawan, Bapak Nadir Shah, please come forward. And we will also invite Dr. Fatima Alias as the representative of the co-host University Science Islam Malaysia to come forward and exchange second of appreciation with the Dean of Faculty of Law.
Okay. Kalau pasti kan orang bilang begitu. It's right. Okay. Ya sih, ini juga ada token untuk infusion.
Lagi Pak.
Harus sama ya.
Okay, thank you very much Pak Emilio, Pak Iwan, Pak Nagirsya, dan Bu Fajina Agias. Now, we would like to invite all the board of faculty of law, invited guests, Brother Pina, and all of the participants to come forward, because the next session we will have captured this moment. So, for all the participants, please come forward.
Oh, partition. Bisa dibantu Pak? Pak, klik. Monggo, Pak.
And please, for all the participants in Zoom, to turn on the camera, because we will have the photo session.
Diarahin ada yang naik ke podium belakang bisa naik satu orang. Acara arahin acara bantu arahin. Habis Suko ke sini bantu arahin. Bang Bima suruh ada yang naik ke belakang Bang.
Okay, so we will try to fix the line first for all the guys. Lagi bisa di belakang atau meja di belakang, pas di belakang Prof. Nadia Pak Iwan. Berarti yang di belakang meja ya Pak?
Ya, betul. Agak naik. Nah, ya betul. Nah, ya. Nah.
Okay. Let's try to take a look at the line first.
Rek aja udah. Bang Bim masuk ke mobil Bang Bim. Bisa Bu? Masih bisa? Geser sini lagi Bu?
Iya, Bapak, sebentar Pak. Okay, for some participants, we can maybe we can spend like if it is possible for anybody.
Kita geser ke depan. Yang mahasiswa kita suruh jongkok aja. Bapak. Ibu geser aja. Ibunya digeser. Nah, ya.
Okay.
Ibu boleh di belakang Ibu. Ibu 3 belakang.
Sedikit naik ke mas biar kelihatan bagaimana kita ke halaman terus kita.
Ayah, Bang Bima jangan ngalangi.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, freestyle. Okay. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please have a seat because we are like to our agenda.
Kita closing dulu ya Pak. Kita closing dulu. Ha? Masih boleh duduk dulu. Ha, kita mau closing dulu.
Jalan tuh Mas, yang kita dapat laporan.
Kita closing dulu.
Mau langsung besok atau
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we get to the last session in this event, which is closing by saying Hamdalah together. Finally, as the master of ceremony, I do apologize if there is anyone unpleasing you all. Thank you for your great attention and enjoy the Asian-Col session tomorrow. Please be reminded for all participants that tomorrow there will be 2 sessions which will be started at 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Untuk teman-teman yang mau menanyakan informasi lebih lanjut terkait dengan para session tomorrow bisa langsung bertemu dengan panitia yang menggunakan baju
jadi enggak nih.